We're back for week 2 in our Q&A series in recognition of Brain Injury Awareness Month. Joining me once again are Michelle Renee Wild and Christy Cragthorpe, co-founders of BEST. Michelle, my first question is for you. I understand many assume that all people with brain injury go to the hospital. Is that typical of what you hear from those you work with through BEST?
Actually, I don't think that's typical for who we tend to work with. Oftentimes, what happens is people who have a more severe injury will absolutely end up in the hospital. They may go into the emergency room, they may be admitted to the hospital, they may even have to stay in the hospital for a period of time. But the vast majority of people that we work with at BEST actually are those individuals who oftentimes never even went to the emergency room or may have gone to the emergency room with a concussion from a fall or something like that, were treated and then released and told to go home and limit their activity, limit their online time on their phones and all that for several weeks, and that the symptoms or that the challenges that they're experiencing will probably go away. And I think that's the case for a lot of people that may have a concussion. But what we tend to work with are individuals that have what they call persistent concussive syndrome, meaning that those symptoms that they might have tend to persist longer than what would ordinarily be expected. And for us, many times, again, people we're working with don't even go to the hospital. They may fall, might be a sports related injury where, they feel like they're a little bit out of it for a few minutes. And then, a lot of times people want to go right back into a game if it's a sports related thing. Luckily now we have concussion protocols that will prevent people from going right back into a game. But I think it's a really interesting question. And although a lot of people may go to the hospital, a lot really don't end up going to the hospital or staying for very long.
I was one of those that was fortunate to go to the hospital, and I was there for a week. But some people will go to the hospital and end up not even getting diagnosed with a brain injury, and then sent home and then have symptoms after. Symptoms can occur not immediately, but shortly after, like a week or months later type of thing. I have had 2 brain injuries. That's another thing that we should put out there, is that the likeliness, if you have one, you're going to have another one, either because in my situation, it was a car accident. I didn't plan for that one. The second one was a car accident. So it does happen. And in some cases, again, the first time it was because of a horse accident. I was in the hospital for a week. The second one was a car accident. They checked me out and told me I didn't have one. And then later on, I noticed a vast difference in my ability to process things. It's a lot harder. It takes a lot longer to do things that are taxing mentally, to be able to write out and put ideas together.
Yeah, that's a great point, Christy. I know I actually knew you when you were in the second accident, when you were hit in your car. And I think that's a really important point to make. In fact, some of the statistics are that once a person has a brain injury, I think the statistic is they're 3 times more likely to get a second injury and 8 times more likely to get a third injury. So that's definitely something to think about. And I do think, actually, Christy, if we think about the people that we've talked to in BEST and stuff, many of them have had more than one injury. Yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up.